Death or Prison, brought to you by leanonmeusa.org. The men you are about to hear have served more than 50 years in prison. Let's join Johnny Branham, Elmo Golden, and John Giles in an episode entitled From Test of Heart to Testimony.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Death or Prison podcast brought to you by leanonmeusa.org. I am Johnny Branham, and to my right, Mr. Elmo Golden, and to my left, Mr. John Giles. Welcome, everyone. And so what we want to do, John, is take you through your life, and we'd like to start about the time when you were growing up.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. I was actually born in Leesburg. I want to say around the time I was 5 years old. My mom and my mother and father got a divorce, and we moved to West Palm, Riviera Beach. The first place we moved was Federal Gardens, which is a incredibly rough place. I've seen so many things, so many catastrophic things happen there. And so I grew up with a single mom. Not only was my father absent, but my mother was uninvolved. There were unintended consequences, of course. I want to say we moved over a dozen times. Most times I would find trouble, but not necessarily because I was just a troubled child. By nature, I'm aggressive. I'm very combative, and there can be several elements of that I can contribute to fatherlessness. This was the grace of God. My mom took me down to Lake Lytle and had me stand and watch the football players, and she saw the lights in my eyes. And so from that time until about 8th, 9th grade, high school, I was trouble-free. I know that was God, because had not that been one of the things that took place in my life, I would have derailed much sooner, because from the age 5 to 9, I had been molested 3 times. And football was the catalyst to bury everything. I took everything on the field.
You said something early on in the conversation about being fatherless. Mm-hmm. Did you have any type of relationship with your dad at all?
None whatsoever. I didn't understand certain things until after incarceration.
What age did it start, and what did you get into?
So 8th grade going into 9th grade, I started experimenting with drugs and women. And then I ended up letting my grade slip under a 2.0. I couldn't play for that season. Right, that was 11th grade going into 12th grade. I was so disappointed. So I decided that's not what I wanted to do. So I put that life on the back burner, and I dedicated everything to football again. The very first time I touched the ball was against Lake Worth. I scored a 60-yard touchdown. Very first time. And so it seemed like everything was okay. Like I righted my wrongs. They put me in the newspaper. You know, I had a success story, etc. And then we lost semifinals, and that was it. Right after the game, I remember crying. And this is the only thought I remember having was, football is over. What am I going to do? And at that moment, I made the decision to commit to a life of crime. I ended up getting a charge for aggravated battery and burglary on the school campus, and I fled the police. I had a warrant out for my arrest, so I didn't graduate. And that was the introduction to that life.
You've made a commitment to become a criminal.
Right.
I'm all in.
Right. Immediately, I was like, I'm gonna be a lit boy. Mm-hmm. That's what I did, a jack boy. So I burglarized.
How did you end up in the institution?
So the last time I got arrested, that was it. They had already been looking for me. They found me. They when they interrogated me, they had a folder of papers and pictures, and showed me. They literally showed me all the people. They showed me pictures of all the people's houses I hit, and I remember the lady showing me one of an old man, and it was crazy. And when I was in prison, it broke me. At that time, I didn't feel anything. She showed me an old man. She said, you ransacked this house, and that's all he had.
Mm. You stated that's, at that particular age, your life of crime began. Mm-hmm. Have you ever regretted it?
I say yes, because looking at my life now, I wonder how far I would have been. But then looking at who I was at that time, I knew it was only a matter of time. And so part of me believes that that was God's intervention. If it had, let's just say it was delayed a little longer, I know for a fact I either, it was just the type of person I am. I either would have been killed or I would have already have killed someone.
And that's why we call this Death or Prison podcast, because there are some people who literally feel like they're in between those two choices.
Yeah.
So that's very impactful for the people listening.
My only option in my mind, my only option was crime. That was it. And to the extent that I had committed my entire being to it.
I actually made that same commitment too, that this is what I'm going to be.
Wow.
And my situation came through outside influences though. Mm-hmm. And you speak about your potential. You know, these decisions that we make, they sound crazy, but we feel as if there's no choice, there's no way out. It's only about death or prison.
Right.
As you were both talking, a scripture came up to me, and it says, if our gospel be hid, it be hid to those who are lost. And it says, the God of this world have blinded the minds of those that they would not believe. So when you think about no way out, it's like you've been tricked into thinking that there is no way out.
Right.
But it's beautiful that you can come back and say, now that I look at things, there's so many other options that I did not see at that time. And it was really only because we had the blinders on.
Right.
John, you're in the courthouse now.
Mm-hmm. What was on the table was 18 years or you go to trial and we'll give you the maximum, which was about 35. Mm-hmm. I sat in there for 15 months. And then I came back the second time. They told me 11 years. They were giving me 11 years. And if I didn't sign the date, then I was going to get to 18. I was there in front of the judge. This was my last time that I was going to go there. I was there in front of the judge, Judge Kachanakis. I actually saw him. He doesn't even know how he impacted my life. It was a white judge. And I mentioned his skin color because that's very relevant. He said he didn't think that the amount of time I was being given was worth what I had done. Which how he figures that, how he came to that conclusion is beyond me, other than the fact that God, that was a God moment. That was a God thing. My public defender, she asked him if I could have a wild sentence, which the maximum amount of time is 6 years. And he said yes. And so that's what I was sentenced with. I didn't even understand. I was emotionless. I didn't even understand what had just happened. Mm-hmm. God had stepped in for sure.
Mm-hmm. What was going through your mind at the time you were sentenced and thinking about moving forward, going to prison?
So I was finally happy to go to prison from jail.
Is mom in the picture at this time? Is there communication between family? What's going on at that time?
None at all. I recognize how brittle our family was. You know, I thought that I was close with my siblings, and that proved that I wasn't. As a matter of fact, it proved that out of sight, out of mind.
Sometimes when God really wants to get our attention, he'll handcuff your family
100%.
To where they can't contact you, even if they wanted to, where they can't write you.
Yeah.
And so because he wants that time with you, that time alone, that purging moment, that putting you back on the potter's wheel and shaping you and molding you up.
Yeah.
And so he knows that the family could be a distraction.
Yeah.
And so now you're ready, you're gone, you've gotten on the Bluebird, the bus, and you're in the prison. You're in the prison system. First day, what was that like?
I knew this to live by. Don't say anything to anybody. If you encounter any altercation, you have to make it the last one, or you have to make a demonstration on that. So I knew that one. I had already learned that concept from jail, that the people who are quiet seem the most mysterious. They're usually not the ones that are targeted. So coming into prison, I took the same concept. I even went by an alias. I was going by the name Rome. So that's what everybody knew me by. And so coming into Lancaster, they do TOH Friday night.
What's TOH?
TOH is test of heart. So you, if you're new, you have to fight. If you don't fight, you get jizzled. You become somebody's what's the word? I'm trying to substitute the word.
Well, then you become somebody's boy.
Boy,
instead of you
that's
being
it.
a man, you become a boy.
You become a boy.
Right.
Any canteen you get, you give it to them. You have to wash clothes, all that good stuff. So it just so happened to be I made friends with a white boy on the bus. When I got there, I made friends with a white boy and an Indian boy on the bus. When we got there, those two got picked on. Those two got singled out, targeted. And so that's where most of my fights came from. So the first night I was there, that I fought for him. And the boy who I fought was a part of the Bloods gang, and I completely destroyed him. So then from that point on, I made a name. They tried to recruit me. I didn't get into any gangs until, and this was and this is the mysterious thing about my journey. I was recruited by Crips and Bloods, and I didn't join any one. 6 months later, when I was about to leave, one day I woke up, I said it'd be a good idea to get into a gang. So I joined a gang called Shatas, and I actually approached them and told them I wanted to join their gang. And they thought it was the most profound thing. Many people knew about me. I fought several times. I had developed a strong reputation. And so, of course, they welcomed me in. And then that began a path of more devastation.
And what was your role in that gang?
So I was an enforcer. In fact, I ended up getting shipped from that camp to the next camp, Marion, and I would extort people. So anyone new came in, it was my responsibility to break him before any other gangs did, so that he can be our jizzle. So I carried alone about a 2-foot, 3-foot knife, and that's what I was responsible for.
Right. Now, you've used that word twice, and just for our listening audience, you used that word jizzle. Can you explain what jizzle is?
So basically, you are the only way I can describe it is anything that you have doesn't belong to you. You don't have an identity there. Your identity belongs to the person who makes you subordinate. It's almost as if you're a slave. Well, technically, that would be the most appropriate term. You are their slave. They tell you to do something, you do it. You don't do it, there's consequences. There's a corporal punishment.
So you mean to tell me if that person, that what we call war daddy, if he tells me that he wants my shoes, I got to take my shoes off and give them to him?
Exactly where you stand.
Whatever he has, that belongs to you, and you were the enforcer for that particular group of guys that you were with.
Yes, sir. Yeah, Marion was a fairly mild institution. People just did their time there. There were a bunch of lifers. So they just, rather than have me go back on the compound and be a potential threat, they just shipped me off. And then I went to Hamilton. Hamilton was it's close to the Panhandle. It's a maximum security facility. It's all lifers. I went there, I found people that are in my gang, and it just restarted from there.
Now, early on through the conversation, you said that you felt convicted by because of your personality, your character, of committing crimes against other people. You would commit the crime and be remorseful afterwards. You do it. So now you're in prison.
Yeah.
You're probably at your third camp now. You're committing crime against other people.
Yeah.
Do you still feel?
Not at all.
Remorse. Okay.
The process itself, how demeaning and dehumanizing it is, it makes you insensitive to the humanity of other people. I became a terrorist. I terrorized people.
Yeah.
Exactly what my conscience was stripped. Exactly what happened. And so you can only go further and further in that process unless something intervenes. And at this facility is where God intervened for me. I was set out to the treasury for my gang was stealing, and so the lieutenant put the hit out, and he told me and 2 other boys that we were to carry out the hit. He gave me a knife, and he gave them 2 locks. The location was the rec yard. It was all set up. We had people on standby to pick up the weapons once we were done. This is my first time actually carrying out a murder in prison, carrying out a hit in prison. All the other times, extortion is just they inflict as much pain to make you break. We get to the point where it's supposed to happen, and then I start stabbing them. I stabbed them about 5 times. The other guys hit them with the locks on the head, and I didn't even look back to see what happened. Just kept walking. There was a drop-off spot where we dropped the weapons. When I dropped the knife, I looked down, and it was a foul about, it had to have been about 6 inches long. When I looked down to see this foul, the foul was completely bent. It was in an L. This is a thick piece of metal, right? It's completely bent. And so I'm looking at it, and then immediately fear, comes over me. Because then I'm thinking, did he have something on? Was it successful? Because if it wasn't, they were going to come after me. That could be some appearance that I was trying to save him.
When you say, did he have something on? Now, the object you were using bent.
The object I was using bent.
And you're saying that, did he have something on?
Something protective, phone books or something metal. Once I thought about it, afterwards I was walking, I dropped it, and the cone was laid over. I kept going, and I'm thinking about it. And not even phone books would have bent the piece of metal, this foul. I'm freaking out. I don't know what to think it is. I really don't. I know it's going to come back on me. He survived. He told them who it was. They come to our dorm. The first time they come, they get the 2 boys. They were looking for me. They couldn't find me because I went by an alias, another alias at this camp. I created aliases at every facility I went to in order to disguise my identity for survival purposes. And they paired me up with a picture. And so that's how they got me. Took me to the confinement, solitary confinement, and I stayed there for the next several months. I wake up Thursday. It was about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. They're calling me to pack my bags. So in my mind, I'm thinking, how am I going down south? I pack my stuff. I end up at Sago Palm, the facility that changed my life, where God changed my life.
How did that happen?
So this is a medium security facility. I was at a maximum security facility. So I had already known that was impossible. So to have come all the way down here, I said, this is incredible. This makes no sense at all. So I had already saw something that wasn't logical. It didn't make sense. It wasn't a part of the natural pattern, the natural order. So I'm here, and I want to say about a month or 2 in, I get this brilliant idea that, you know what, I'm about to get out in about 2 years. Maybe I should try to do something. So then I started going to programs, and slowly but surely, these ideas started coming back to back. I said, I want to stop. I'm going to stop smoking, and then I tried to stop smoking, stop drinking, stop doing drugs.
Hold on. So you were still in prison. You wanted to stop smoking, stop drinking, and stop doing drugs.
Yeah. Well, those things are prevalent in prison. You have full access to them. About 2 months of this happened, and I reached a breaking point because I started smoking and smoking again, drinking again. And so there was a point where I reverted. Something about that time completely broke my spirit. I couldn't change myself consistently over a long period of time. When those desires came, the urges came, then I gave in every time. I became suicidal. I could not see myself living beyond where I was. I couldn't see anything beyond prison. I couldn't see prosperity. I couldn't see things getting better. There was only one thought that redirected my thoughts, which was if my mom found out that I had committed suicide in prison, she would have a nervous breakdown. That was just enough to redirect my thoughts. Rewind it maybe about a week or 2. I had started going to church. One of my friends invited me up, and this is how he hooked me. He said, "Oh, they have oatmeal pies and coffee there." I wasn't receiving any commissary. And so I said, that sounds like a good night for me. And so I went. I started going every Friday nights, and it was Friday, just so happened, ironic. I didn't know Jesus. I wasn't knowledgeable about God or anything like that. And all I remember is the man that I'm connected to now, his name is Doc Robinson, James Robinson. He was preaching. He was talking about how Jesus gives hope. And I remember putting my head on the back wall, and I started crying. And I just asked, I said, Jesus, if you're real, I need help. That for the first time in my life, I experienced this tremendous, overwhelming sensation of peace, indescribable. It was almost as if my physical body was weightless. And then from that point on, that was the most distinguishable moment in my life. From that point on, things have never been the same. It has been completely different. I left out of that room. I wanted to hug people. I wanted to love people. It was almost as if like I experienced like an EMT. It was like an electrical shock. It was literally like I was raised from the dead. It was like I was lifted out. Yeah. And then from that moment on, it hasn't been the same.
How did people look at you after that moment? And I mean the people that are in the institution.
In the institution. Well, in the beginning, they thought I was just another religious person, jailhouse religion. But over the course of months to a year, it became evident that something had happened to me in that room. I think it's important for everyone listening, men and women, to understand this isn't a single event. There's nothing unique about me. If anything, there's something unique about humanity, that God loves us so incredibly much that anyone can experience the same peace. It is only because of the peace of God that I've been able to experience radical transformation in my life. And that is for everyone, anyone listening. Doesn't matter what interval of time, what phase you're in, what moment you're in. Intervention can happen at any time, any place, in any moment for anyone.
Yes. I believe if you pay attention to all of our stories, you can see the hand of God moving in our lives. It's important for you guys to sit back, evaluate your own life, and just welcome God into your heart.
Amen.
You said you were trying to do it on your own, and you were a strong-willed person, and you got to the point in your life where you felt like, I can't do it on my own.
Yeah.
And so I know there's a lot of people that are listening that thinking that, well, I've tried this, I've tried that, I can't do it on my own. I keep falling, I keep failing. And it's like when you tell your story, and I'm not a prophet or anything like that, but it's like you took that one step and God took 100 and just ran to you and engulfed you in that peace. Absolutely. And so the Bible says that he's even nigh unto our lips. All we have to do is just speak. All we have to do is pray. It's a conversation. And if you're looking for that peace, he gives it to us. It's free. So go ahead and tell us some more. Did you give notice to your gang that you were quitting, and what were the consequences?
Yes, completely unexpected, not normal at all, which we understand that God isn't orthodox. I knew I needed to take this step. In fact, in my mind, if God had done what he had done, then this would be the testimony. And so I go to the lieutenant that was on the compound, and he actually was my friend, and I told him, I said that God saved my life. This isn't the life I live anymore. I told him just like that. And he said, I know. He said, you'll be okay. It's like I talked to them. And that was it. I turned around and I walked away, and I never looked back.
Right. You said the lieutenant was your friend.
Yeah.
The lieutenant was your friend.
Yeah.
You were in prison.
Yeah.
And where usually it's us against them.
Yeah.
You're saying that this individual was your friend.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Did you ever have an opportunity to minister to him also?
I did. Several occasions. My change had occurred, and I immediately jolted towards the life I'm living now, the life I'm leading now. So they already saw me doing what I was doing, which wasn't typical of a gang member. So they knew something happened. It was just never official. That day, it was official.
It was official. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
There was a volunteer that was influential in your life. Can you tell us a little bit about him?
Absolutely. Steve Rasmussen. He came to prison. His son and him, they had a prison ministry. He's a business owner, successful business owner. Have done very well over the years. And this is how God was calling him to live his latter years. And so he came into prison Tuesday nights. His son and him and another gentleman named Dennis Caldwell began my transition to enter into society. Those two gentlemen and I grew very close. For whatever reason, we bonded. Steve told me, when I get out, call me. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. Sounds good. When I get the work release, I called him. He offers me a job. I was driving from 441 State Road 7 all the way down to Ditsy, where we are now. It's a 21-mile ride on my bike a day. They treated me like I was family. He's a man of wisdom, very wise. And so I would feed off of his advice, his suggestions, his wisdom, and because of his company, I developed so many essential aspects to my stability and my success now.
We thank God for all the volunteers that come in.
Absolutely.
Because they don't have to do it.
No.
And they're exactly what they say they are, volunteers.
Yeah.
That means they spend their money, their time, their gas money. And what's most important is something that we don't want to leave out, that they leave their family to come spend time with you.
Right.
Have you ever told Steve that you love him?
Absolutely. I would tell him all the time.
What's life like for you today?
So life is wonderful today. I'm married of 6 years now. Beautiful wife named Deanna. I have 3 kids. I have a boy that's 3 years old and 2 twin girls that are 2 years old. And my house is destroyed. Everything because of the kids. I love that to death, though. I do. I'm involved in church. My wife and I were leaders in our local church, Destiny International Ministries. When I got out of prison, I went back. The pastor had an impact on my life, and because of that, I went back there, and I've been there ever since. I work at Valvoline as a store manager. I was promoted very quickly.
Did you recently just get a
promotion?
Yeah, a promotion.
Yeah.
And with the promotion came what?
Came more money.
A pay raise,
Yeah.
That's good. That's another testament from God. How important it is for us to do the right thing.
I thank God that we operated on our faith, because we've gone. The last 5 years have been very challenging. I've lost my brother was murdered. I lost my father-in-law. My wife lost her father unexpectedly, and it was devastating. Didn't know what to do with that. We were going through so much, and I was always tempted to either revert back to that lifestyle or to involve my will, to manipulate the situation so that I can get the results that we were looking for. And my wife and I, we stayed true to the faith. This is one thing that we believed in, that if we tampered with the situation, if we manipulated it to favor ourselves, then we will always have to maintain it from our wills. And our wills are depletable. It's only so much we can do in life. We said that we wanted God's will for our life. And that meant that if he did it, if he caused it, then he has to sustain it. And we really wanted that. That meant that everything that we did had to be aligned with his character, had to be aligned with his word. And I'm not saying that we succeeded every time. I made a lot of mistakes since I've been out. However, that was still our aim. That was still no matter the situation.
I've been home 18 months now. And I actually met you inside of the prison. I met Steve, then he came with Ken McKenzie. Yeah. And then Ken invited me to the classroom, and I met you. And you were so inspiring to me. And then I noticed so much of me in you that I was like, man, I'm so glad. Now I'm saying all that because I'm glad to see you again. And you're letting us know that there are troubles and there are times where we're going to have to face still some tribulations and some oppositions with Christ, but you just said it so beautifully that if Christ started it, let him sustain it. That's beautiful, man.
Yes, I'm definitely taking that with me. I thank you all for listening today. If you're listening today and you're sitting there and you're sitting in your cell or your bunk or in the county, wherever you are, you're looking at 3 men who said, we waved the white flag. We surrender.
I give up.
Our way is not working, and we gave it to God. And the results are his. Yeah. And I can testify and say that from my standpoint and listening to the testimony of these men, that they turned out pretty good.
Yeah. And you know something, Johnny, just a quick intervention. Share this podcast with your friends. Share this podcast with your family.
This has been the Death or Prison podcast, brought to you by leanonmeusa.org. We want to thank John Giles for hanging out with us today and sharing that powerful testimony. Always thank you, Elmo, for being here and sharing. And this is the Death or Prison podcast, but we say we choose life. We invite you to the leanonmeusa.org website, where you or your family can click the middle button and be connected to a welcoming, mentoring church. Once you click the button, you can fill in your name, email address, phone number, city, state, zip, and leave a comment. We would love to hear from you or your family.
Looking for a welcoming church? Connect at leanonmeusa.org. Death or Prison is a production of leanonmeusa.org. Copyright 2020. Death or Prison is offered for information only and is not intended as legal advice. Thank you for listening.
I can change the world. Feed one, teach one boy and girl. Maybe we can change the world.